I noticed some of the lessons that have been learned are similar across companies, so I may just end up dancing like my friend over here. No, I think really interesting discussion so far. I think the one thing you'll notice about some of the startups and early stage people who've been involved early on in the companies, you start to ask some questions, what you'll find is there's just some crazy stories that sit underneath the onion as you start to peel it back. And then the stories that how they got to where they are today is quite fascinating. I think one of the things that sort of separates those that are still around to tell those stories and those that aren't is the speed at which they can pivot, which was something that was talked about in both. How quickly do you respond to your failures is a massive differentiator between those that survive and those that fade. Now, when we first started this company, it was 2001 when we took it to market, so the dot-com bubble had just burst. 2 months after I joined the company, we were getting ready to take this thing to market, so my 18-month get-rich-quick scheme had quickly faded into, and here I am 16 years later. So, wearing the same sweater in that photo, apparently. So, really quickly, startups, what I find, it is the truest definition of a solution looking for a problem. Right? You walk out of that door and you have got a solution, that tagline, I've got a solution for you, right? Imagine you're out there selling it and you're trying to get people to buy. The only problem is you have zero idea who the you in that sentence is supposed to be. Not a clue. You may have written it down in a business plan, hopefully you had one, but it isn't who it really is. Right? In 3, 4, 5 months, those who've been here on the early days realize that the you in that sentence becomes whoever will not hang up that phone. Literally, right? You want to speak? Amazing. Guess what? I'm pitching to you. And what we had at the time, our solution looking for a problem was real-time feedback. Great. 2017, this is not something that's hard to find. 2001, damn near impossible. Right? So what we had 2001, 2002, the sports industry did not hang up the phone. They had a problem. They had brand new websites, e-commerce platforms that had to turn profit, right? Big investments in that, and they needed to hear what customers felt so they could pivot this thing faster, so they could actually get better usage, better conversion rates, quicker revenue. So great. Who had a solution for that problem? We did. Real-time feedback sounds great. Good fit, right? Only problem is, and the spoiler alert on this one, is that anytime you're dealing with an industry that has fanatics instead of customers, what you tend to find is that if you open up the communications to let them drive it, you just get a ton and ton of noise. And sifting through that crap becomes damn near impossible, right? So what we had was the Canucks. Canucks showed up, amazing brand to start out with. Early on, we sold our software for $2,000 in hockey tickets. Went to a ton of hockey games that year. All right, CEO did not like this strategy, but I knew that it had a brand that was recognizable when we didn't have anybody, right? So the Canucks had a .com website, Canucks.com. They were rolling out really exciting new stuff. They wanted to get customer feedback, and guess who had a solution for them? We did. Real-time feedback, amazing. Only problem is, why we sold them real-time feedback, what they actually got was a bunch of customers who had ideas on how they should get Gretzky out of retirement. I'm not even kidding, right? And while this may be an interesting little anecdote, it was not the solution to their problem, right? We were done, out the door. Next, Nike, okay? Getting Nike early on in your startup is a phenomenal accomplishment, no doubt, right? Especially if you're out there trying to sell. Having a brand like that on your website takes you a massive leap forward. Nike had a new Nike ID website. You can build shoes. It's still online. It's really slick. Blast Radius at the time was building a lot of their properties. They may still be. They had Nike Town was also being launched. They wanted to get real-time feedback. They wanted to get it in quick. They wanted to do feedback a little differently, and we had a totally different look on how to do this from the traditional research and all the crap that was out there to listen to the customers. The only problem was what they got was a whole bunch of hilarious stories about what people would say to them, right? One specific story where a guy wrote in and asked if the Nike wanted to have the dead butterfly that he kept because it miraculously had a Nike swoosh on its wings. I'm not even making this up. I couldn't. And we laughed over all these things. He would send me, the guy in charge of the website would send me all these comments he would get, and it was hilarious. Problem was, they're not paying for jokes, right? And we're done. So what we learned, two things we learned from Nike. One personal, second one company. Personal one for me, after driving 6 hours in a crappy old Jeep down to Oregon, when we pulled up to that campus, which is, if anybody's ever been there, the most amazing thing you've ever seen. To me, it was the single moment I knew that this company was legit, right? That we had something that somebody wanted, because nobody gets here this fast if you don't have something of quality. And so for me, that was an eye-opener, and I still look back at that moment as being a bit of a moment thinking, what in the hell are we doing here? And how have they not figured us out and kicked us off this campus? The only problem, so that was an interesting anecdote for me, but the reality was, from a company perspective, it was a very different story. Nike taught us, 6 months later, the inglorious ending to our relationship with Nike had us distraught and devastated that we had to take this brand off our website, right? It was crushing, especially for me. I grew up in sports. Going there was amazing. So in this case, we learned we had two choices. One, we had to open up our ears and listen, or we had to fade out. And in 2003, 18 months, 2 years after the bubble burst in the tech sector, people were fading like crazy, right? They were dropping like flies. So we decided we wanted to try to listen and see if we could learn what was going on. And what the listening became a vehicle for self-awareness. Self-awareness became the salvation, right? And that salvation allowed us to pivot, it allowed us to focus, and it allowed us to thrive. So what we thought we had was a product that gave real-time feedback. Great. Okay, the problem is that's a commodity. It's easy. Anything that's easy is commoditizable, can be replaced real fast. And if it's not being replaced, the price and the value are being driven down even faster, right? You're done. So what we also learned when we listened was that we had some things that were of value. Okay, we had a reporting engine that was really slick, really robust, and could handle really complex problems. Okay, interesting. We had the ability to not only identify and flag where customers were pissed off, but an ability to route it to people to be able to deal with it a lot faster. And this was something that was way ahead of the curve at the time. So knowing that, okay, we listened. Now what do we do? Okay, we need to find complex businesses that need complex reporting. Okay, had to find them. Okay, because that was one of our sweet spots. Second thing, we got to find organizations that actually care, or at least should care. Most of them, a lot of them didn't at the time necessarily. And we should say, especially in my role, dealing with customer experience, you want that to be everyone, right? But trust me, it's not, right? The ones that need to care are the ones you pay the most money to, and pay it consistently, where losing you matters, right? That's the difference. And so for us, knowing that got us to this, which is the end, right? Okay, what do we need? What is the solution? What is the problem that our solution solves? One, we need lots of customers where you need a big business to deal with the problems and the service delivery, okay? They'll need our reporting. Two, we need lots of high-value customers where if you speak, they should listen, or they should want to listen, and where retention is a real problem, generally in commoditized areas, right, where you can get a lot of competition coming in and taking you over because there's not a huge differentiator between what they do. So where did that land us? Financial, okay, mortgages, investments, insurance, stuff like that. Telecommunications, a big one. So once we figured that out, the second big lesson was once you figure that out, you got to bet on it, right? You've got to realize that this is the hill you have to be willing to die on. You've got to push all, not to use all the analogies in the book, you've got to push all your chips in the middle and accept that this is it, right? And we're going to go out on this one because we have a solution for this problem, right? If we can't sell it, okay, fine, that's on us. But the reality is we know we got a solution for this problem. So what you find is, and you want to place all your bets. So what does that mean? Okay, you got to build industry expertise real quick. Okay, get people to know what the hell they're talking about. Second thing, spend all that piddly little tiny marketing budget in one space, right? One spot. Third, don't let your salespeople go out of their lanes, right? You want to wander over to that hill because you see a shiny nickel on that hill, don't go. Because trust me, you're going to die over there because there's nobody around you to help you, right? Product ain't good over there. And salespeople will chase anything, right? If there's a dollar on the end, they're going after it. And it's hard to tell them no. It is. It's impossible because they'll sell you on why they should make that. It's easy. I can sell that, right? But the reality is I can sell this a hell of a lot easier. And I don't have a lot of money, right? You go out there and you want to kind of fight all the battles on all fronts. Even if you got a shit-hot product, you're going to lose on all fronts, right? And you're going to go out of business. And I think for us, this was the big thing. What it does is if you can find this sweet spot, if you have a product that's good, if you got a service model that's quality, you can get some wins. Wins gives you street cred, right, in the industries where you want to be. And that street cred allows you to open up more doors. And I think what we found in this case was That success, you're starting to roll the snowball downhill and you're starting to gain some momentum. I think what we found here was it creates different problems, which is a whole other lecture on how to solve problems in the telecom space. In the telecom space, guess how many companies there are in Canada for, right? You want 25% of the marketplace, that's only one customer. You can't build a business on one customer. If you want to be a global leader in telco, guess what? You got to be global. So you got to go to all these countries. So now we've got, in Tajikistan, Iraq, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, in Macedonia, Montenegro. These are the places we have to live. Now that creates a whole other interesting set of challenges of how to service and sell effectively there. But what you notice, because you've got the street cred and the solution to their problem, they're not hanging up the phone. And that, if anybody's ever had to do cold calling like I did in 2001, it's a hell of a lot more fun when they don't hang up the phone. So, I think there's some general messages here and I'm pivoting, but that's really it for me. So I appreciate the time. I think probably over my 5 minutes, but.
What a fantastic presentation. Any questions? Okay, I may be the only salesperson in this audience then. No? We've got one back there.
Yeah, good question. So yeah, we're about just around a couple hundred people. So we've got offices in Sydney, London, Toronto, Vancouver, Chandigarh. We've got an outsourced, well, not an outsourced, actually we own it, office in India as well. Telecom, financial services, still our sweet spot. To be honest, we're still not big enough to challenge in the US against our competitors who are big in Silicon Valley. So we try to stay out of there a little bit. So we've been good at picking our battles. Canada, we're big. Middle East, we're building. Asia and Asia Pac, we've got partners doing some good work for us there. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Question.
Can you, so how do you fund this? Is this VC funded or is this?
Yeah, mix. Yeah. Yeah, we're profitable now, but we obviously early on it was really scratching together loonies at the beginning.
And how did that the early pivots? So with Nike and
Yeah.
the other groups, were you able to raise funds throughout that? Or?
Yeah. Early on was really hard, right? The March 01 was kind of when the bubble burst, and January 01 was when I got in, and we hadn't taken the product to market yet. We were going out looking for funding, and you couldn't find it anywhere. Right, literally, you had to be really slick in order to be able to pull some cash out of that market. So we got a little bit, right? Got a $500,000 at the beginning, got us moving a little bit. Okay, generated some momentum. We had a strategy where if you can't sell it in Vancouver, don't bother. That's why I drove to Oregon, right? It's like getting that damn Jeep and let's go. But we brought some funding in over time. Obviously, we had some pretty big growth years that have kind of ramped us up in certain areas, and we grabbed some funding to help facilitate that. It kind of went, you start to spend it, and then now we're coming back out of that and profitable again. So, yeah, it's been interesting.
Last question. What kind of advice do you have to somebody who's new to the sales business and has to make those cold calls?
Thick skin. Don't honestly. Honestly, you have to believe in what you're pitching, right? I think that's the biggest thing. If you don't feel like you got something of quality, it's going to be challenging. And I think we did. We thought we had something there, and we were all kind of inspired, and all a small group of people who kind of believed not only in the product but in each other, and that gave us. But I think you got to have. It's hard, and it ain't for everybody. But I think if you can learn, there's a ton of learnings to have there about what resonates. And if you listen and tune your pitch constantly, just that listening and pivot, you got to do that all the time, right? It's hard. Sorry.
We're
Go
going to
ahead.
cut it off. Sorry, if you can tweet, Chris, I'm so sorry. Wow.